It's Doctor Who month, it's Doctor Who week. Welcome to Who the Trans.
Trans and non-binary. Who the trans, 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 trans.
Hello, and welcome to Who the Trans. Sorry, I'm saying it with that tone of voice that makes it sound like a game show, but nonetheless, welcome to Who the Trans.
Who the Trans.
Who the Trans. It's the Doctor Who flavoured spin-off of What the Trans, because it's Doctor Who month, and it's Doctor Who season, and it's Doctor Who week. Hello, I am Ben Swithin, on Twitch as Benjamillion, they, them, she, her, or what you will. Surprise me. And my glamorous co-host, or glamorous host, I'm the co-host, is...
I'm Alex, I'm she-they, I am you've probably heard me from What the Trans, I do general tweeting and a bit of photography.
And seen your photographs
Instagram.
come now.
Well, you can see it spammed all over our Instagram and threads these days, isn't it?
It would be indecorous not to mention this.
Indeed. So, it would have been Why the Trans, but Abigail Thorne sued us, you know? I'm just kidding.
Yes, Why the Trans will be our chromosome special.
So, how have you been this particular Monday/time in general?
I have been very excited this particular Monday/time in general, / actually this Monday was a bit, but the last few days of the Doctor Who month of joy have had me buzzing, which probably is why I was so tired today. I've been bouncing up and down constantly. It's exhausting.
Oh, indeed. I mean, I was sort of, I think, just at the end of the episode, I was just fist bumping and going, yes, we're back. Oh, we've got so much to go through. I mean, well, I think yesterday I watched a bit of Napoleon. That was a good film. Certainly some surprises. I was expecting some big bangs from Cannon Fire, but not quite the big bangs that just suddenly happened in it. Which was a bit of a surprise. But yeah, and I think Doctor Who started off with a big bang as well.
It did.
And it was in our anniversary special.
Yes, one of. We got a trio plus some of anniversary specials. It's been a very exciting week and a half for me because we had the scene for Children in Need with Davros, and I did not know we were going to have Julian Bleach back as Davros, and he was magnificent. And then we had the Daleks in colour, the colorized first Dalek story, which I was so excited by because I've seen the original many times, and this one, which was radically cut down and edited, fans hate it. They go, why have you made the TARDIS floor blue? But I liked it very much. I was so excited that the following morning when my housemate returned cheery and said that the previous night she had had a threesome, I said, well, last night I watched the Daleks in colour, and I think I know which of us was more satisfied.
Oh, God.
I was quite enthusiastic.
Oh, God, yeah, because the Daleks was... I only caught just a snippet of it, and then when I went to try and return back to watch the rest of it, I was just absolutely devastated that it wasn't on BBC iPlayer ready for my...
Well, it certainly is now.
Is it?
Oh, yes!
I have to jump right on it. I mean, I loved the cut-down look of it. I watched the original cut of it a few months ago, and did have a lot of, a bit more oomph, so I'm always... happy to have a faster-paced edit. I'm sure that Tales of the TARDIS must have annoyed a few fans, right?
The fans are satisfied with Tales of the TARDIS because largely it is the stories as broadcast plus top and tailed. Some of them are saying, why would you bring these characters back and just have them so happy and sentimental? Why don't we have more rich variety? So fans find a way to complain about anything. And it's terrible. I try and stay off the forums, but I definitely don't stay off the forums.
Oh, indeed. I think Reddit's been my trawling thread, which is also going to probably be my undoing, because I'll be scrolling down and seeing immediately a spoiler for episode 2 or something, which...
It is a monstrous thing.
With Doctor Who, everyone's jumped in it at some point in its lifespan and such, and...
Who's your doctor?
Oh, who's my doctor? I was just going to ask about who's yours, but no. Oh, mine is... I'm not sure if it's controversial. I was the 11th Doctor. I was Matt Smith, the young, energetic Doctor with, all the running around and such. Well, there's always running around, but...
No, there's always running around. Maybe less in the early 60s. William Hartnell was not such a runner, and the studio was remarkably small. But yes, I am very pro Matt Smith. I do find he does too much twirling in his third year, but he gives me joy. When he was cast, I was filled with rage, because it really seemed like this was someone who was about my age and slightly like me, and I thought, this is the person who's taking the role out of my hands that I've always hoped that I would have.
You'd
so
be
I had fury.
you'd be an amazing Doctor.
Thank you.
You've just got the energy, like, everything. Oh.
I would try and do it with gusto, but I think Matt Smith did exactly what I would have done, and this is good, and I made peace with this. And I actually, when I heard it'd been cast, and in a few days, I thought, I'll make peace, and I'll send a letter to Matt Smith saying, it's okay, you're allowed to be the Doctor. So I sent a letter, I sent a bar of Cadbury's chocolate, because I want to be friendly, and I also sent one of my favourite hats, because I'm a collector of hats. I sent a black fez with a black tassel, and I have no idea if he ever received it, but when the Doctor turned up in the series, at the end of his first series, he is wearing a fez. Not the fez that I sent, but whether or not he received it, obviously someone else agreed. This is an actor who needs a fez.
Yeah, so now we've just exclusively revealed that Ben has subconsciously caused the fez appearance in Doctor Who. I suppose the other thing about the 11th Doctor is Matt Smith based it a lot on the 7th, and I'm going to predict that yours was the 7th, right?
I love the 7th Doctor. He is tied for my favourite. He is the one who really excites me, and there is no 7th Doctor story that doesn't give me complete joy. There are fans who can't stand his first season, but I relish it. Paradise Towers, one of his, is one of my absolute favourites, and I say this unironically. I became a fan in 1990, discovering it through videotapes in the local library when I was really pretty young. My mum had brought them home because she thought my brother would like them. And so I don't actually have a Doctor whose era it was when I was growing up, because 1990 is the year after the show was cancelled.
Oh, yeah.
So from then until the return in 2005, it's 15 years, during which exactly one story was broadcast.
The EastEnders one, wasn't it?
Oh, there was that one as well, but the TV movie with Paul McGann.
Ah!
Yes.
And you saw that one went, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I feel like the Doctor is very good in that, but everything that is not the Doctor is sort of misguided in some ways. I can enjoy watching it, and if you watch it directly after a slow, older Doctor Who story, I recommend watching it straight after The Dominators, it makes it so exciting. But yes, I would say my favourite Doctors, I love the first Doctor, William Hartnell, I love all the Scottish ones, and I'd find delight in Jodie Whittaker. And since Ncuti Gatwa is Scottish, or raised in Scotland, I have a full expectation that I am going to relish his era.
Oh, indeed, the Scottish ones did so well. Sylvester McCoy was one hell of a thing. I think even though 11th has a place in my heart, the 7th Doctor is placed very close in a second place in that thing. And also, Ace is my favourite companion now.
Excellent choice.
It was literally whacking a Dalek with a baseball bat and shooting an RPG. That was just like, badass good girl.
I like the concept of badass good girl, and I'm trying to work out what the exact compromise would be with a sort of mediocre. I don't know what the central point between girl and ass would be, and I'm not going to speculate on it here. Yes, she's incredible. I find it very difficult to choose favourite companions because there are so many to be glad with. So I will just go with Bernard Cribbins as Wilf.
Oh, yes. And actually, I was going to say something, but that's a spoiler for later on in the pod. But yeah, Bernard Cribbins.
We will bong the bonger if we give you any spoilers, so don't worry.
Yes, the Cloister Bell of spoilers, which I think the first one is, I remember seeing The End of Time, and when Wilf, saluted at the Doctor at the end of the scene, that left a frog in my throat and nearly made me cry.
A beautiful performance. I got an LP from a charity shop, which is the soundtrack to The Snowman, with the story narrated by Bernard Cribbins. This is the classic animation from back in the day, and I pushed on, and within about 10 seconds I was crying, because I have such strong childhood emotional connections with that. But he's a great performer, and I'm very glad that Doctor Who is part of his adventures.
Oh, indeed. Rest in peace. Hopefully we should see an appearance on the anniversary special. And
it has certainly been implied that we will see him back. Not from beyond the grave, from before it. But yes.
I suppose this hasn't been the first anniversary of Doctor Who, has it?
No, there have been 59 other anniversaries before this one.
Indeed. I think the last one before it was the 50th anniversary. What were your thoughts on that one?
It was very exciting. It was a whole new Doctor, and this soured fans' milk, as you always, with John Hurt appearing. But he was incredible. I really like Day of the Doctor. I had to watch it a couple of times to really soak in it, because around that time I was paying too much attention to the forums, and every time I watched Doctor Who, even if it was a great story, I would spend a little tense going, what are people going to say about this? Everyone's going to complain about this and that and that. And until I have let that go and just been able to enjoy the stories, it really spoiled my first viewing of lots of Doctor Who stories, and that is kind of one of them. But I really liked that, and I really liked An Adventure in Space and Time.
I watched that just before the 60th anniversary came on, and then about 20 minutes later, after The Weakest Link, I watched the 60th, and that was so heartwarming to watch. And I was like, what a perfect TV show to watch just before Doctor Who, the Adventures in Space and Time.
And if you've watched the version currently on iPlayer, you will note that Shruti Gatwa has a cameo at the end where Matt Smith was 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, because I was like, they ripped Matt out. I was feeling a bit bittersweet actually, unfortunately, because it's really nice to have Shruti, but I have too much of a sentimental value towards Matt Smith on that one, but I could totally see why they did it, because
It's the future.
It's the who's the latest.
Yes.
Looking into the furthest futures of Doctor Who, smiling back at him.
Yes. And with a little wink.
I saw it slightly out of context without any music on while I was scrolling at work when I should have been actually working.
You scroller.
I was like, oh, he winked. And then I watched it again and I'm like, no, the wink's fine. The wink's fine.
It's beautiful.
Oh, indeed.
Doctor Who is a very wonderful thing. And we're gonna go through the story that the Star Beast, and it's a wonderful piece of trans television, far more than I could have anticipated. We're sort of going to go through that bit by bit and then get into trans actors, performers, writers, etc. in other Doctor Who things. So, shall we toll the cloister bell and ding the donger?
The donger and the cloister bell for spoilers.
Yes.
This episode will come up with spoilers and plot details about the Star Beast.
Yes. If you listen to this before you hear it, you will before you watch it, you will surely die.
Well,
You'll probably be fine.
yeah.
But I think it's a wonderful thing to experience. So it starts off with the sort of recap, a flashback recap with David Tennant standing in space and Donna Noble sitting at a table. And I don't know why I think of David Tennant by his actor name and Donna by her character name, but I guess that's how it is with the Doctor.
Well, it's either if you say Doctor, it could mean any other 15 people, isn't it? So if you say...
Well, I mean, if you say the Doctor played by David Tennant, even that is ambiguous now.
that is too true. It's like, which one of the two Doctors is he play exactly? So they were in space and time, and it looked really cool, but it was sort of the first time they did a fourth wall break sort of thing in Doctor Who, wasn't it?
There's one of the Capaldi openings where he talks, I think, to the camera, or perhaps just to himself, about the bootstrap paradox. But yes, I really liked that they started talking directly to the audience, because it felt like a play. It felt like this is how you'd start if you're doing a play and you wanted to have, in fair Verona, where our city, blah, blah, blah. Like it's just hey audience, this is what the rumpus is. Now let's enjoy the rumpus. And I like that it's not what you normally do on television, but it works.
If a person's never seen Doctor Who, they need that stuff, don't they?
Yes, I think that bit is very much for the newbies or anyone who has not meditated on Doctor Who day and night for the past 13 years. I like this, and it got us ready to go straight into it directly, without them needing to put clunky exposition dialogue in.
It was meant for the newbies as well, because it was launched for the first time worldwide on Disney Plus as well.
Yes, I understand it hasn't turned up in the Middle East yet. It's meant to be worldwide on Disney Plus, but it is Doctor Who is conspicuously absent there. I don't know if that is related to its very transness, or whether they're just getting a delayed launch. We shall see.
Yeah, I wonder
but
why.
Worldwide,
yes, indeed.
Worldwide, new people will discover this. Fresh dubs in many countries.
It then went straight into the intro, which... Oh my gosh, what were your thoughts on it?
It's very exciting. It's very loud. It's very Murray Gold. It's the diamond logo, and the words leap off it. I'm satisfied. I think you're probably going to find that what are my thoughts on it for most of this adventure are, it was very exciting. So I'm not going to be terribly critical. I may be of pieces and bits, but I think most of it I'm going to be very positive about this.
Oh, exactly. It just started off with utter gusto. I when I was at home, I was watching it on my big TV downstairs with my big surround sound setup, and I put it. Usually when I watch TV just casually, I put it on level 50. When I'm watching something with a movie with my family, I put it down up to 70. And this time I put it up to level 85, which got me to a point where I was very worried my neighbours would hear.
I mean, if you were that worried, it was in your hands. But yes, it's Doctor Who, and once in a decade, or maybe once every week for 3 weeks,
oh, indeed,
it's acceptable to be a terrible neighbour for Doctor Who's sake. Maybe.
Yeah, essentially, the intro is amazing. It was utterly cinematic. I mean, the particle effects were beautiful, and I'm so curious to see if this intro sequence is just for David Tennant or whether it will make a resumption for Ncuti Gatwa.
Why would they throw it away? This is a good thing. Lots of fans are going, oh, maybe they'll get rid of the opening titles. Maybe they'll change the TARDIS interior for Ncuti Gatwa. Why? There's not a good reason to change this for every Doctor. I'm pretty sure Russell T Davies will have come in and made it what he wants it to be now. But maybe we'll be wrong. There is a Christmas special with Ncuti Gatwa, so we will discover in less than a month.
It's going to be so good. But yeah, we did the whole intro sequence and bang, you were right in the mix with the TARDIS arriving in London.
Yes, in Camden, a place I've never been to, but I believe probably exists.
Oh, have you?
I'm a northerner, as you may be able to tell from my accent. NB, you will not be able to tell from my accent, but I'm a Geordie. I just had problems learning to speak when I grew up, and it's possibly autism. And I ended up like this. But yes, I don't know London very well. I've been there on holiday. Camden is a part of it I have never visited.
I've been there once or twice myself, actually. They do some really good fried chicken there, I think. That was the one thing I remembered. And some good shops if you wanted to get some good goth get-up and such.
Nice.
And people thought they were going to tease out Donna at the episode, not quite get into it immediately, but 5 seconds in, the Doctor sees
It's Donna immediately!
Yes! Ambushed by Donna.
No time wasted. And she hasn't changed. The performance is... It's seeing favourite friends on television again, who we thought we would never see again, and they're picking up and they're doing something new and it's not just nostalgia, and
I loved how when Donna went in, the Doctor just saw her face, went, nope, and then just put the box back up, because I think everyone in the audience went, yep, that's what I'd do if I was a Doctor right now, just run away.
It's fun to run away.
But then immediately afterwards, all we heard was the shouts of, Rose! And in came Yasmin Finney, or Rose.
She's glorious. She's a trans major character on television whose transness is not concealed but is a joy, and is not just, oh, and this character's trans. It's sort of part of the adventure.
Part of the story.
Yes! I was watching this with my housemate who is trans and her girlfriend who also is, and it was a room full of trans bouncing of excitement.
Oh yeah, I think the moment she came in, I almost started crying. I mean, it was crazy. And the main elephant in the room, that I think the main reason we made this was that it was like a main character of Doctor Who being on the main screen. A lot of people will probably point it out to be very similar to Hayley Cropper, and then I remind the audience of the impact that had. I mean, when I looked at it in Wikipedia, the character had a section called Political Impact. It mentions that the storyline of not being able to adopt kids triggered an early day motion in the Houses of Parliament, and then for the wedding of Hayley, the Labour government promptly afterwards announced it was going to form a parliamentary working group to assess how the UK government could grant trans people legal rights, which then led to the creation of the Gender Recognition Act. And quite frankly, that's going to be massive. That was massive in its own right. And
if you're not a Coronation Street fan, Hayley Cropper was a character played by Julie Hesmond-Halk in Coronation Street, who was the first trans character to have a major role in a soap opera. She was played by a cis female actor, and this has come under a lot of criticism, but having a trans character who was sympathetically and positively portrayed was a very significant thing.
Oh, indeed, yes. I mean,
she was in the show from 1998 to 2014.
Oh, yeah, indeed she was. That sounds pretty long term to me. Some Doctors don't even last that long in Doctor Who, right?
I mean, it's struggle to think of some who have. That's a good long length.
One of the main parts of the thing was you saw the kid. You saw a bit where there was a bit of misgendering in there, and millions will inevitably have seen that, and immediately the Doctor Who episode, and it just went out to straight out say misgendering is bad, and that is going to be quite massive, isn't it?
Yes, in Doctor Who, we have kids from Rose's school who shout after her with her dead name, and Donna is very angry about this, and I think threatens to go after them. So, very supportive family. I've heard a few people say they're really not happy that we had a trans character and immediately her dead name was used. But I sort of think it is a short and effective way of conveying this is not just a trans character living in an idealised television version of London. This is what it is for trans people in the world, and they have to be brave and strong, and they are, and this is very wonderful. But I can absolutely see why that was in there, but I sort of wish I didn't know her dead name.
I suppose the main bit is it immediately went out and condemned it straight afterwards, and I think people will see that, and some kids will see misgendering is bad. Quite frankly, when you see someone like Maya Forstater just straight out trying to legally say, I have a legal right to do this and that, she will look like a right arse. Well, she is an arsehole, but she'll never be able to look good in the eyes of history.
Not that there is anything wrong with assholes, dear viewers. But yes, when people are them, it is unkind. Those kids on bikes were real jerks.
We probably should also mention that in Doctor Who, there has been trans representation in the past.
This was not the first trans actor, although I believe Rose Noble is the first trans character who has been in Doctor Who. So the earliest one, Law Wilson, who played Daughter of Mine in Human Nature, that excellent two-parter, is non-binary. They were not out as non-binary at the time, but they now are. Bethany Black was the first openly trans person to be cast in an episode in 2015 in Series 9, Episode 9, Sleep No More. I liked that it also had Reece Shearsmith, because then he was in a meaningful sense inside number 9. But yes, Bethany Black, who is also a comedian, and I've seen on stage, and she's in an episode of Russell T Davies' Cucumber with Julie Hesmondhalgh, a notable casting of an actual trans person as a trans character there, along with the person who had played the trans character on Coronation Street, who was then playing a cis character. But yes, she was cast in Sleep No More. She wasn't playing a trans character, she was playing a grunt called 474, who is treated quite badly in the story and referred to as it, despite being female, and to be honest, that is not a great first role for a trans actor. In the audio adventures, if you listen to those, and I personally recommend it, Rebecca Root has an ongoing role as one of the Eighth Doctor's companions, Tanya Bell, in that, and Adele Anderson and a couple of others have also had some notable roles in things. Overwhelmingly trans women in it. I'm not aware of any trans men who have been... I can't think of anyone who is a binary trans man who's been in Doctor Who yet, but I understand one has been cast for next year.
Oh yes, Peter McHale. Maybe I should try and get him on or something, just...
You should! I've been saying for months we should try and interview Yasmin Finney directly before she becomes too famous to interview, but the circumstances did not come around.
Oh, exactly. I've sort of been trying to look up the...
Agents.
Agency. I'm just trying to find the agent for him. I mean, if you have a contact... Get in touch with us, DM us on social medias or anything. We really want to get some of those folk on. So if you know anything, it's always been good to see some trans representation. I think,
which is a rarity, but it is becoming less obscure in Doctor Who. And given how openly woke the Chibnall era was, which I think is one of the best things about it, it's weird that no one trans appeared in it.
The first one was with, by the sounds of it, was season 9. That would be Peter Capaldi, right?
Yeah, Capaldi as the Doctor, Moffat as the showrunner, and Mark Gatiss as the writer.
There's been a fair bit of it in Doctor Who, but yeah, it's just great to get the trans representation.
I mean, there's a fair bit of it in Doctor Who, so long as we accept about 3 actors and one of them as a trans character. That's not a lot, but I feel like for Doctor Who and for British television in general, things took a substantial step with this exciting adventure.
It's literally the first episode of a 60th anniversary special with 5 million viewers sitting up to watch a trans character and see how cool we all are and such.
Oh, we're not all that cool. Come on, I'm not. Would that I were. But yes, they got into a lot of her moments alone with the Meep and being quite honest about sort of feeling a bit cut off and separate from other people. Just a slight bit of isolation, but not loneliness, I think, because she has such a supportive family. I love how supportive Donna is, and Sylvia admits to sometimes using the wrong pronoun. She doesn't do it in a scene with Rose, but she admits to it and talks to Donna about that, and I feel like that conversation will be something that chimes with a lot of parents and other relatives watching. I really like the idea that after this episode, lots of people will have been able to have the conversation with their parents.
Oh, exactly. I mean, when I saw the bit about Sylvia, it looked... I think they mentioned it in the Doctor Who commentaries or even Unleashed. It said, it's basically saying that it tells cis people that it happens, but just do better and all's good. It's an encouragement for allies or people who are looking to be more of an ally in the future and such as well. So it's got some messages for that as well.
We try to do better, and we care about our family members and other people as well, I hope. But there was very much a family focus in this.
And we'll have to see how the Donna Noble family does in the future, because I don't think this is the last time.
Yes, hopefully they won't go to Wilf's house and find that he's a bigot now.
Oh, good God, no.
Bernard
I doubt that.
Gammon Cribbins. I'm sure this is not what we'll get. He was not, to the best of my knowledge, a gammon. He was a good-hearted man.
Oh, I don't think Russell T Davies would dare.
I think he wouldn't deliberately make us turn against a beloved character, but maybe. We'll find out. We'll find out whether suddenly this is all laying a snare for fans who are excited, but I don't think so.
So yeah, briefly after, Rose makes the awesome appearance. Another thing makes an appearance, a giant spaceship.
Yes! Well, I've seen Gianter, but yes.
Exactly. I suppose it wasn't exactly the Titanic on the Christmas special circa
2008?
And immediately after the ship crashes, the Doctor then goes to the big steel mill where an alien ship has landed. I always hear that from Doctor Who Confidential that if they really wanted to emulate a big spacecraft, they go to steel mills, so I have to presume it's a callback to that, maybe. Or maybe I'm just thinking into it too much.
I mean, it's possible. It's a pretty, very practical place to land if you want to fix a spaceship, like with both the Dalek and Jodie's screwdriver being made from Sheffield steel. So, they go to a steel mill, but not Sheffield, because we don't have any anymore, because Thatcher.
Alas, yes. But yeah, as the Doctor was sneaking about, the Doctor got discovered by the scientific advisor number 54.
Yes, Shirley Ann Bingham.
Shirley Ann Bingham. Was it the first representation for disabilities? Or?
I mean, there have been many disabled characters in Doctor Who with various impairments, going back as far at least as 1964 and Dortmund. But Ruth Madeley is perhaps the first occasion of a wheelchair user playing a wheelchair-using character, and of a recurring character using a wheelchair who is not Davros. The fans have been up in arms about Russell T Davies' comments on Davros from Doctor Who Unleashed after the Children in Need scene a few weeks ago, because he has had the audacity of saying that he doesn't want to keep presenting Davros as a disabled villain, and that bringing in Davros for that brief scene, which was delightful and delicious, he deliberately did him before he was using a wheelchair, and he also suggested that he wouldn't use Davros again in a wheelchair, but maybe if he brought him back, he would bring him back not using a wheelchair, and fans are absolutely incensed that this is wokery and virtue signalling and all sorts of things. I know that Russell T Davies has mentioned talking to Sherry Lee Houston, who is a notable disability representation media advocate. He has talked to her specifically about the issue of disabled characters and got advice from her. Some fans were saying, oh, I'm sure Russell T Davies is just doing this because he's assuming that disabled people want characters to do this, and they assume that they find Davros insulting. He's actually talked to disabled people about this. Good advocates who know what they're talking about, and I assume he's done the same with the trans community. And now we have an excellent new character who happens to use a wheelchair. This is plot relevant, so it is not just, oh, by the way, also she uses a wheelchair. It does prevent her from getting caught with the rest of the soldiers who have gone up the gantry.
Oh, exactly, because there's like a whole thing with like rocket-propelled weapons in a wheelchair, and wheelchair-based gadgetry has so much potential in Doctor Who. You could do so much with that as a screenwriter. I'm surprised there wasn't more of it previously. Or, well, the first I've heard of it anyway. But I think you probably know a bit more, because I'm not the biggest expert.
Well, it's a pity that our biggest expert on wheelchair users in the media is not here, since we do not have Ashley this week. But I will be very interested in hearing her thoughts on these things.
She found it quite cool when I did send her a message, but she hasn't quite seen it yet, so it's sort of like a small inkling of what happens. So when it comes to the actual overall thing, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not a wheelchair user myself, so when it comes to discussing the Davros kind of things, I'm probably not the best representation to discuss, but I suppose in a way it sort of depends on the story is going to be enhanced or...
Yeah, I feel like the decisions that Russell T Davies is making with these things, it's not exactly cramping the style of the things or making the stories radically less entertaining. These were highly entertaining stories because they're using people. They're having a trans character whose transness is relevant. They're having a character who uses a wheelchair, and this is not just, oh, let's talk about the wheelchair. It's just propelling this into part of the story. But yes, fans are arguing about numerous Davros-related things. Was he actually disabled, or was he just very, very old? Is it actually a wheelchair? Does it have wheels? Is it a wheelchair in the original 1974 script? Yes. Fans are finding ways to object to these progressive movements as much as they can, because while Doctor Who has always been a very progressive show, fans get nostalgic, and nostalgic makes you very conservative.
Oh, indeed. So I suppose that's what it is. So as well as that, I think I'm going to bring out my slight nerdiness with the scientific advisor, but I
think this is acceptable in a Doctor Who podcast.
So the scientific advisor had a little folding phone as well. I have a folding phone myself in this case, and I think I identified the phone that she had as a Surface Duo 2, which is Microsoft's answer to a foldable device. So this one doesn't quite have the it isn't quite a folding screen like the Samsung, but it's a cool phone nonetheless. But I'm like, oh, maybe it would have looked even more sci-fi with a folding screen.
I mean, this is someone on modern day Earth. They need to look a little sci-fi, but not too sci-fi. Yes, I just gone, oh, it's some kind of iPad. But you really know your technical stuff. I always feel like you keep abreast of developments.
Oh, indeed, that's the unfortunate part of doing IT. You just follow all the Doctor Who stuff. But also, 56th scientific advisor, and in like what would I presume with Doctor Who's lifespan of the show, it's about 60 years if they're like going along
yes.
things.
UNIT was founded in the late 60s, although this may have been slightly made earlier to the late 50s by the events of Flux. And the Doctor was the first scientific advisor, although actually I think Liz Shaw may have been the first and the Doctor the second, or at least he gazumped her position. Other scientific advisors we've known UNIT has include two of them called Osgood, who are very probably father and daughter. The first Osgood appears in The Demons, which is an excellent 1973 story, and Malcolm in Planet of the Dead. Not to be confused with The Dead Planet.
56 in about the space of 60 years. That's quite a lot of scientific advisors.
I mean, when the Doctor's there, they really don't need any other than the Doctor. But when the Doctor's not there, then I can imagine they'll need specialists in a range of things. Or they all have met grisly fates.
Oh, indeed. Or was like saw the first monster and just noped out of it immediately.
Can you nope into things? And I feel like possibly Doctor Who companions are the people who nope into things, and by doing so, that makes them ideal candidates.
Yeah, and also another thing that came into it was this sonic screwdriver's got some new abilities.
It has. It's very handy.
Oh, and
that's all I have to say on that, really. It being able to open a little screen to look at actually makes much more sense than just looking at a screwdriver. I do wonder whether being able to make barriers is a step that is going to be too convenient for stories. So I don't know how much we'll see the sonic screwdriver getting lost or broken in future stories, just to prevent the Doctor from evading bullets that way.
Yeah, I was very unsure about the bulletproof glass thing. I was like, is that too convenient? Like, it's a sonic sound vibrations, but then again, you're trying to add pseudoscience to what was already established pseudoscience.
I think this is something that goes beyond just using sound to extract screws. I have no objection to it happening in the story because it was just convenient for what needs to happen next in the story. It moved things along. I know. I could excuse a lot of things by going, oh, it's fine because it moved the story along, and there'll be people shouting at their radio sets and going, why is there a podcast on my radio set? People got confused.
Essentially, Donna and Rose came back into the house. Donna did her very protective, I will burn everything for you, or sort of, I can't remember the quite right phrase, but then after her chat with her mum, which we mentioned earlier about the getting pronouns wrong, she then talked to him about she was missing something. And then I just love how Donna's mum just gets scared stiff every time it's mentioned. And it's just all the gags around it were brilliant.
I love Sylvia Noble because in several of the stories from Donna's original season, Sylvia is really horrible.
Oh, yeah.
She's a really unsympathetic, unkind mother who is disappointed by her daughter. But it's just a really well-built character, and I think she has developed magnificently.
Her trying really hard not in this just showed some of the love that she had for Donna and how she cares underneath all the awfulness around it, sort of, wasn't it?
Yes. And even if she's not good at showing affection to her daughter, she's good at showing it to her granddaughter.
And indeed, the immediate thing afterwards was Rose then went into the shed, and I was just thinking, wouldn't it be funny if there was a blahage in that shed?
That would be lovely. I bet there's a blahage in her room, because we all have blahage. Unless we have objections to the ethics of IKEA, which apparently some people have. But I like blahage, and blahage was not responsible for these war crimes. But yes, in the shed, it will be a homemade blahage, which I would name blancmange.
Oh, because some people call it blowhigh or something like that, isn't it?
So far as I can tell, it is just blahage said in a Swedish accent, rather than being significantly different vowels. I also think blahage is satisfying to say. And if Blahaj would like to correct me on this, I'll respect it.
Oh, indeed. We haven't been called out by the Blahaj subreddit on Reddit, which is a lovely subreddit, by the way. But I suppose part of that was the stuffed toy-looking look of Meep, which immediately after she put her stuff away, Meep then made an appearance in the scene.
The Meep.
Oh, the Meep.
The Meep is very insistent on this, yes.
The definite article.
Yes, the Meep is a beautiful creature. And I knew that the Meep was a war criminal at heart, because this is based on a 1980 comic strip of the same title. And so I've seen many pictures of the Meep wielding a gun, but I loved the fluffiness of the Meep, and you ripped its tummy all out. And so I am no Miriam Margolyes, but this is a lovely character, and a horrible character. And I very much hope we will see the Meep again. I have no idea, but it certainly seems plausible.
My sister-in-law watched this with us, and I found out that she was a little bit scared of E.T. or the Gremlins. And
this is valid.
I was like, yeah, indeed. But I just found it interesting that some villains might not seem too scary to some people, but others, they can instill the right amount of fear. All Doctor Who villains are scary.
Well, I've heard a lot of stories of children really caring about the Meep in the first half of this story and really worrying for the Meep. And then when it turns evil, it is such a twist, the like of which they've never encountered before. And I think that makes a very effective villain.
Oh, exactly. I mean, the twist, some people are like, oh, it's going to turn evil. Everyone was predicting it. But to kids, the Doctor Who is a kids' show as well.
Yeah.
And that would have been I think that would have broken the hearts of quite a few kids.
Oh, yes.
Actually, there, isn't
I think it is. They're an important part of the audience. There was a Blue Peter episode this week, which I watched because a friend of mine who works on Blue Peter appeared in it. He's one of the people who normally works backstage, but they did some of the behind the scenes at Blue Peter stuff. But it also had the results of the children's Doctor Who fan art drawing competition. They were going to send badges to the best 500 of them. I do wonder if that's the only 500 they received, or how discerning they were in this case. But it was really nice to see that children are just enthusiastic for Doctor Who. They're drawing Daleks, just like I did. They're drawing Rose Tyler from the very first episode, which made me go, you're forgetting the classic series. But it was wonderful to see children love this show, which is how it should be. This is a show that needs to be fun for them.
Oh, it's so adorable. That is adorable as hell. And this costume, and the Meep was so realistic looking as well.
Yes.
It was mainly prosthetic, but there was CGI enhancements, which is very Baby Yoda-ish. And I've got a slight feeling that the Meep toys are going to sell just like the Baby Yoda ones.
I hope that we can have some Meeps on our shelves. I've got to the point where I have nearly enough Daleks now, so I feel like it's a Meep I need next.
Oh, indeed. So after Meep makes the appearance and hides in Rose's shed, but it then cuts back to the steel mill. There's a psychedelic sun, and then makes its appearance as this mysterious spaceship opens its doors to a bunch of unit officers, in which it then gets in their eyes.
It is uncomfortable to have stars in your eyes.
It also showed you some of the unit appearances as well. I mean, I'm not sure about how they looked with the armour and such. It looked a bit Starship Trooper-y.
They seem quite a competent organisation for once. I'm always more interested in what unit does in rooms having conversations than in what they do running around with guns. But for some people, this has always appealed a lot more. And I think that the shootout in this episode is the biggest and most explosive Doctor Who has ever seen. So I think if you enjoy people shooting and exploding things, this will have been a very good week for you.
Oh, it sounded fantastic. That's the Disney money coming out right there with the action scenes. So briefly after that, it then cut back to the shed, and then you get the chaos of Donna Noble discovering the Meep.
Poking them in the eye. I mean, all the beautifully handcrafted toys that are in there that I do like, and I wouldn't mind having some of those on my shelf or on my bed, some of those stuffed toys. I do wonder if in a couple of weeks, Rose being a toy maker is going to become at all relevant.
Oh yes, people keep I saw mentions of that on threads and everything. I was like, ooh, the subconscious programming from the toy maker.
But it's fun to make toys, and everybody should.
It then leads to the Doctor saying, oh, Donna doesn't have to remember me specifically. So it seems to make it feel like Dr. Donna's activation is a little less sensitive than it was at the end of times, where things have to go weird with the Master and her head would just, blow up.
Yes, I think it has been reworked to be what is convenient for the story. And I sort of got the impression that almost no amount of what Donna sees will trigger it on her own. When we finally got to it, it seemed like this is something that needs to be fairly deliberately triggered.
Oh, indeed. We'll get to that in later on in the thing. But then there was a bit of a scene where we found out the Meep's pronouns.
Yeah, I was slightly weird about that because Rose, as a trans character, saying, "Are you just assuming the Meep is a he?" It did feel a bit, "Did you just assume my pronouns?" But I guess it's good to bring these things up and have conversations. It felt a bit awkward. It felt, that is the thing that the Daily Mail paper edition is lashing into. Dr. Woke corrected on pronouns. Yeah. It's a thing that needs to happen. I found it a bit awkward, but I'll allow it.
It could have been even more powerful. I would have said, maybe if Sylvia said that, went and asked about it, it's like a little bit of character progression to show...
Well, perhaps, but I'd rather not have the cis person in the room policing the pronouns.
Fair play on that one. Yeah, I think I see what you mean with that one. I think that was the only time where when I was watching with family, it's sort of a lot of the references to trans people went over their heads a bit, but that was the one only mention where it sort of got where they noticed it, in fact.
Yeah, the word trans and transgender never mentioned in this script.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Moving quickly on from that one, Unit then arrives, or
Kablamo.
Unit that isn't for Unit, in fact. And everything went explosive. The car explosion was awesome. It was so many explosions. I'm just surprised my neighbours didn't hear the Doctor Who when
I'm pretty confident from everything you said, your neighbours heard everything.
Well, apparently when nothing appeared on the family group, on the street group chat when the Doctor Who happened, so I don't think my neighbours complained about it, but who knows? They probably did hear it.
Yes.
From what I heard. And then just straight on after that, it went to the car park where there's a bit of a courtroom scene where the Doctor did an interesting moment with a judge's hat.
A barrister's wig, I believe. Yes, I think it's something he does in the original comic version of this story, and it's something that the Fourth Doctor does in the Stones of Blood as well. Just whips one out because he's going to represent someone in court. And I did like this. It was ridiculous. It was a highlight of the scene.
Oh, yeah, that was brilliant. And it's probably an ode to the endless-sized pockets of the Doctor.
Capacious pockets.
Capacious pockets.
That's how Terrance Dicks always describes them.
Oh, Terrance Dicks. But yeah, briefly after that, it then went to talk about the Meep's backstory, and there was mentions of a galactic council.
We've never heard of them before.
Heads.
This is news to me.
Oh, it's the first time we've heard of. So there's no governmental entity that rules the galaxy.
Not that, I don't even know which galaxy the Meep is from, but the Shadow Proclamation is the one thing mentioned in that scene that we have heard of before, because they come up in Journey's End, I think, in the Stolen Earth. But no, the Galactic Council is new to me. I don't know if we will hear anything more of them, or if they're just a bit of colour.
Who knows, maybe they'll delve into that, or maybe it will just be a throwaway line, because now the Galactic Council has lost their heads, and there may not be a replacement. But then again, who authorized? Well, somebody authorized the what were the people who tried to apprehend Lemmy?
The Wrath Warriors.
The Wrath Warriors.
I really like the Wrath Warriors. They're a great design. I really hope we see them again. They also are from the comic, but they're so good, and I really like their flying.
Oh, exactly.
Which I had not anticipated.
They were on like these cool little stilts as well, because as well as Doctor Who Unleashed, they revealed a behind the scenes on their YouTube channel as well, which seems to be completely separate.
Oh, I will give this an eye.
One. Oh, indeed. I didn't notice it until later. I was like, oh, maybe it's just a preview of Doctor Who Unleashed.
We have been so spoiled for Doctor Who content this past 2 weeks, and it's not even halfway through the specials yet. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, we've just been having so much.
Yes, it's almost overwhelming, but actually it is exactly what I need to counteract seasonal depression and regular depression. So I recommend watching lots of Doctor Who, but if you're listening to this, you probably already have.
Oh, indeed, yes. And also, I really loved how the fact they had like a little posh sort of muffled voice inside of the suit, which is sort of like, when you, because it's like the David Prowse and the voice you don't expect inside the suit coming out in the suit, essentially, which I always find very funny. But then, the Meep Cat captures the family and they're taken back to the steel mill.
Oh.
They had a good conversation in the car, and you got some really nice music in that one with a nice rendition of what I think is the Bad Wolf theme. I might be wrong on that one. It just reminded me to say that it felt like Murray Gold's best hits from all the previous series of Doctor Who just made a little appearance.
Some of his
in
Matt Smith era music was appearing as well, which is a very pleasing thing.
Oh, definitely. That was especially.
There's not just let's ignore everything that's happened. This is a sort of a rich use of everything that's led up to here.
Then they arrived, and Vermeep arrived on the iron chair.
I mean, I'd assume a steel chair given they're in a steel mill, but I don't know. I'm no expert on these things.
I suppose I thought of iron chair because I was thinking of the Iron Throne from Game of Thrones.
Oh, yes, this makes sense.
So just the spikes came out at just the right angles for if they didn't think of it like that, it must have seeped into their thing. The family then got rescued, I think, and then they got transferred to the ship. Doctor arrived at the ship, if I recall correctly. You know, Donna Noble went, and then essentially a launch sequence started. And I gotta say, when the launch sequence started, I loved some of the techno babble that Miriam Margolyes then put out was magical. Sometimes you just gotta love the way actors deliver the techno babble to remain good. And then essentially the Doctor and Donna are on the ship.
Their place is bisected into two parts, and I was reminded of The End of Time and the two glass booths with the Doctor and Wilf in, and it felt like, yes, this is a sort of a thing that forces what happens to happen.
Talking of the callbacks to The End of Time, the Doctor then, when he realised that he had to, when he realised he couldn't stop the spaceship without activating the Doctor Donna, the Doctor yelled out, "Why does it have to be this?" That reminded me of The End of Time because of the outburst just before the Doctor decided to rescue Donna. But then immediately after that, Dr. Donna activated Donna with some keywords, and it just reminded me way too much of the Winter Soldier or Bucky Barnes in Marvel. I was like, Russell T Davies must have been watching some Civil War while he was writing the script or something. It was like, yes, I better have that. BLN Dr. Donna came back, and there was a callback to 11, and during the whole sequence with them, the 11th Doctor theme came about, and I just realised that worked perfectly for the Dr. Donna, that specific theme. What were your thoughts on that sequence?
It was fast, it was exciting, it was inevitable. That's about it. That's my reflections on that. At that point, my focus was entirely on what happens next. What can possibly come after that?
And what happened next was it appeared that Donna was dying, and then she did pass away, but then briefly afterwards someone came to the rescue. Yes, our own Rose Noble came to the rescue.
Yes, with a fascinating discovery, and I think this is one of the big possible point of contention, actually, because they're cutting back to the footage of Donna saying binary, binary, binary from when her mind and memories were taken away many years ago, and then it cuts to Rose Noble glowing like a lion. I know lionesses don't glow, but sort of with glorious golden plumes of regeneration energy coming out, responding to binary with non-binary, although this was a voiceover rather than something she actually says out loud. And I found this a little peculiar, because throughout the whole story we've been hearing about, it had never been explicitly said, but I had taken Rose as a binary trans woman, trans girl, and the use of binary here seemed peculiar. I've written down a bit of the script, which goes, so Donna, binary, Rose, non-binary, Donna, binary, and Donna says it was always there, shining out of her. Doctor Who says, and she chose her own name! Oh, the shed, blah, 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 and the Doctor says, we're binary, she's not, because the Doctor's male and female, and Rose says, and neither and more. Which is intriguing, because she's not kind of suggests that in some way being trans is being treated as being non-binary, or that she is non-binary but nonetheless uses she, her. And I had a look at Doctor Who Unleashed about this, and there was a phrase that Russell T Davies used in that, saying Rose contains the he and the she and the neither and the both. And I found this very interesting, because in terms of looking at binary trans people, that isn't a model I would necessarily follow at all. and I was slightly iffy about the idea of non-binary being used to mean trans and having transitioned. And I don't know if that's the point that was being made, but I feel like in the future, when trans representation is everywhere, people will look back at this moment in this episode as slightly awkward for sort of implying that non-binary equals trans, or that someone trans contains the he and the she and the neither and the both. I'm non-binary, so actually I think that sums me up very nicely. But for Rose, it didn't quite align with what I thought the rumpus was.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either. Now you've pointed it out, actually, because I just presumed it was just a ode to non-binary folk, and yeah, I didn't really think about it like that until you.
Because the Doctor's explicitly, we're binary, she's not. Perhaps suggesting that having crossed the binary, having been perceived as one part and actively moved to the other part, is in itself not binary. But at the same time, the Doctor and Donna both say that the Doctor's male and female, because the Doctor's been female. But Rose is something separate to this, which I guess kind of calls into question the Doctor's gender overall as much as Rose's.
Yeah, that's true, because it might be referring to the Doctor's gender expression almost, isn't it? Because in theory,
I don't know how much the Doctor has much gender expression. The Doctor just is doctorish.
Yeah, exactly.
Rose contains the he and the she and the neither and the both. Is that RTD quote again? I think that's one to ponder.
I suppose for the audience, what are your thoughts on that? I suppose, isn't it? Let us know in the comments. I think Patreon is probably getting this first.
Yeah. So is this an esoteric take on what it is to be trans and what it means to be non-binary, or are we just not grasping it? Personally, I choose to take it joyously rather than critically.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's more in a broad stroke rather than a general specific use cases. And if anything, I suppose it's showing that gender isn't as straight set as it is for others. Is maybe a good way to put it.
Gender's a funny thing. Who'd have one?
Indeed, yeah. So
I became aware recently of gender void, of people who explicitly reject gender entirely. The only person I can think of who is gender void is Shonelika, who is an excellent Brighton-based musician, and they are in a band called Powder Paint as well, and I really like their synthwave stuff. But they are gender void, and it contains a sort of rejection of gender and sort of being not gender. And I've heard it's something that often arises in disabled trans people as a gender that is more taken to in that case, but I don't know. But yes, the idea of being neither and both brought that to mind.
And during that whole sequence, there was a whole lot of people saying what, and then I just realised there was so many times they said what during it that it might as well be a drinking game at this point.
I think if your ideal drinking game is one where you don't drink for almost an hour and then you have to take 100 shots, then what you're looking for is an execution.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. They don't really say what like throughout nicely.
Yes, yeah. I think you're creating a very dangerous game that also would not be fun. But people also created many of those throughout history.
Oh, exactly. I think me and my friend were going to be doing like this thing called a death run with Mario Kart, where I was like going through all 96 races, and we were like, and first we were like, if we lose, we take a shot, but then we were like, no, that's 96 races. We'd end up with our stomachs pumped if we went for that one.
Yes.
So we're trying to figure out a way of doing that one, but I'd recommend watching Doctor Who sober for the first time, but then after that, fill your boots.
I like the suggestion that people have never previously watched Doctor Who sober. They only drink it, only watch it drunk. But actually, maybe watch Doctor Who sober for the first time. It would be quite an experience.
Well, you'd actually know what was happening, I suppose, isn't it?
It depends how drunken your drunkenness is. I saw this episode tipsy, but I was not blotto.
Well, actually, tell a lie. I didn't actually watch it sober. I had my nice salted caramel rum on the side.
I don't understand salted caramel. It's one of those things, it seems like it's a fun thing that's been made serious. So I guess you were sober in your heart if you were still drinking salted caramel rum. But,
fair play. But yeah, I think after the ship was prevented from launching and the Rhodes had stitched itself back together,
very convenient,
the Meep plane tried to blow up the ship and got ejected.
Nice.
You could hear the Meep mumble angrily as the Meep to say, yes, you couldn't hear what the Meep said.
Yes, it was like Wacky Races.
Then it had a little bit of exposition saying that it was unusual that the Doctor had two hearts, and the toy maker might have been hinted at.
I don't know if it was the toy maker, because the Meep is going to talk to the boss. I can't think of any reason why the Toymaker and the Meep would be related, because they feel like they operate on completely different planes. And also, the on-screen commentary that you can see on BBC iPlayer, if you look for Doctor Who video commentaries, David Tennant mentions that he doesn't know who the boss is, which suggests it is not going to be something in these specials. I did think it was interesting that the Doctor's two hearts and the Meep's two hearts were raised there, because that has been described in some stories as a binary vascular system.
Well, I mean, I think maybe they introduced the Toymaker as just it could be that the Toymaker's just a bit of a misdirection from...
Oh, I'm sure the Toymaker is going to be a significant threat, but I feel like the boss is something that's going to linger longer.
Linger longer.
Linger longer, linger longer. I love that phrase. I use it whenever I can. People like to say it.
Oh, indeed. Will it be a Shooty Gatwa series related baddie?
This seems plausible.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be related, because I'm like, some people are like, oh yeah, what if it's the Master or something? Because there's always the arch nemesis, but
it's always the Master. I'm quite happy to have no Master for a bit. I've liked all the Masters we have ever had, but also I love it when there's someone who isn't.
Oh, indeed, yes. Yeah, so we'll have to see who the boss is on that one. But yeah,
who's the boss?
I'm the boss. No,
Oh, what a twist! It's Alex from What the Trans.
Yes, exclusive.
She's going to shoot you with a camera. But you'll nonetheless perish.
Yes, indeed.
You will surely die.
Yeah, your soul will be captured in a photo, and it shall be it'll be stuck in digital form for all eternity.
Oh, what a prospect! Stuck in a Polaroid would be one thing. Stuck digitally, there's whole nother things. Do you know if you save a picture as a bitmap, you can then open it. You can change the BMP file ending to .wav, and you can edit it in an audio editor, export it as a WAV, change WAV back to BMP, and because those are both completely lossless things with no compression going on, it can mess up the picture in fascinating ways. Don't dabble with the first few seconds or the last few seconds of it, because that can mess the entire file up. But you can introduce an echo into part of the picture, or you can cut bits around, and it does weird things with the colours and the visuals. So if you've stolen someone's soul and trapped it inside a bitmap or a PNG, then you can edit it and destroy their soul in various different ways.
Oh, that's a Doctor Who episode I'm waiting, isn't it?
Yes. I don't know quite how it would work, because I feel like it will be a lot of someone clicking and dragging and going Control-V, but I'd watch that.
If you see a future Doctor Who episode, just presume we're just going to sue the shit out of them on that one.
That would be a very unpleasant thing to sue out of anybody. But yes,
indeed.
So with the meta crisis resolved, which I thought would dangle over the entire trio, there's now nothing to stop the Doctor and Donna from prospering magnificently.
A fascinating one, because you sort of haven't got a little plot detail to dance around, because that would have been a fascinating bit.
Whatever circumstances brought them together, whatever fate brought them together, that was not the Meep. So I think we're going to see some significant, complex things to follow in the coming 2 weeks.
But I think some people complained that the meta crisis resolution was too easy, or it went too quickly, given how long it was.
It was solved by being magnificently trans and having a child. I can accept this. I can accept this, and it gives me joy. I'm not going to complain about it being resolved too quickly. We had a whole hour leading up to it, and let's do the next thing.
Oh, indeed. So
that's the way to do the series.
Oh, exactly. And I suppose the next thing is, after they shaked off the meta crisis, we then came back to Camden, where the TARDIS was originally parked. Then we get a very, very nice shot of the new TARDIS.
It's very white. It's very colourful. It's very big.
Massive.
I would like to run up and down those ramps. One of the ramps, I'm not quite sure how the angles work, but I really worry that there's one place where if you walked quickly, you could bang your head on a ramp that goes overhead. And this concerned me in the episode. But it could just be the angles I'm looking at it from.
Yeah, I think I saw the one you were looking at as well, because I had watching and thinking, hang on, that ramp looks like you might hit your head. You need a little red and yellow mark on the top of it to say mind your head.
Yeah, but it is sizable, it is wheelchair accessible.
Oh yes, that was the main
I can see this being potentially useful for Shirley Bingham and or for Wilf and or for anyone else who has mobility issues, and for Daleks, for cameras, for anything they wish to roll inside. It's an incredible TARDIS. I think it's going to take me time to adjust to it because it's so different to what I'm used to.
Oh, exactly. It's switched from dark mode to light mode, isn't it?
It's a little bit empty.
Yeah, it's a bit.
I feel like it wants a hat stand, a Christmas tree, and a honky-tonk piano. Stick those in there and it's perfect. But at the moment it's a little empty, and I hope that at least Ncuti Gatwa gets a bit of clutter in there.
There's always potential for TARDISes with those clutters and get good Easter eggs and such. But I suppose another bit of it was there was a whole light show that you can get inside the TARDIS as well.
They have great control over those lights. I hope they do something with the possibility of using those lights to sort of do this light on, this light off, this light on, this light on, and do it to create sort of crude lettering, as in DOS-based applications which use a small number of pixels. I mean, I've been doing some pixel art today, and I enjoyed doing lettering in pixel art. And you do it with a very small number of pixels, but you could do that with roundels of the TARDIS.
The pixel art was from your latest game, I take it.
Yes, I'm working on a game called Trans Theft Horso. It is a trans-Western fantasy adventure, and it will emerge at some point. It's fun to make games.
Oh, I'm so hyped to check that one out as well.
I had wanted it to come out in autumn, but autumn has pretty much come and gone. It will be... You will know by Pancake Day when it will come out, and I hope it will come out in the first quadrant of the new year.
You'll have to check that out. We'll keep everyone... We'll let everyone know when that's also released.
Hooray!
We go back to the TARDIS. David Tennant had a proper run around of the TARDIS on that shot. I think David said he was properly run out. He ran out of breath by the end of it, so I had to do a quick sneaky cut at the end. What would have been cool is if there was like... We said there wasn't a lot of clutter in there or stuff. There could have been other panels of other buttons in specific parts of a TARDIS if it was running around. The Doctor could then go to another panel in the other end of a TARDIS to add a bit of energy to a sequence, maybe, if in the future.
That would be a very inconvenient design layout. It's already inconvenient enough having to run around and around the console. So if they wanted to add an extra 30 seconds to every episode, they could do that. But I can see various logistical reasons not to.
Yeah, fair play on that one.
It is a bigger console than they've ever had before, and I think that's going to provide enough running opportunities.
Oh, exactly, and the console there provided the segue to the conclusion of that episode, wasn't it?
Just as tea falling into the TARDIS brought fumes which awakened David Tennant's Doctor in his first story, The Christmas Invasion, so coffee spilled on the console has spelt I do not know what sort of doom. My personal theory is that coffee has woken the TARDIS up, and that they're going to go somewhere far more real than they normally go. But I don't know what that would mean. I have no basis for saying this. The next episode could be literally anything. But I don't like coffee, but I do agree it would wake a person up.
Forget the Eye of Harmony's energy, just give the TARDIS caffeine, that's all the energy it needs.
Yes. Don't do it if you have anything in the TARDIS that you don't want destroyed in a massive explosion.
Oh, exactly. And when the coffee was spilled, for some reason, the way Donna said, "Oh my God," was just...
It was so Donna.
It was so Donna.
Because she knew she had done it again while kind of demonstrating the thing that she did wrong the first time. I liked that they were so satisfied together and they know they can do anything, and you just knew something's going to go wrong here, but you don't know what it is, and she has coffee and... Oh.
And then my family saw it immediately. She was holding the coffee and then they were like, oh, she's going to spill it. And alas, it got spilt. And then with that, we now don't know where in space or time the TARDIS will end up.
If they are indeed in space and time.
Another parallel universe or outside of time.
One of my favourite stories from the classic series, which now has appeared as one of the tales of the TARDIS, The Mind Dropper, has the TARDIS outside of space and time. The TARDIS explodes and the travellers wake up in what turns out to be the land of fiction.
Because you could encounter any kind of fiction.
Yeah. I don't know if that is what could occur next week, but I love the idea of them doing the land of fiction, and rather than it being the 60s thing of here are some characters from books, it's just, we're on the Star Trek Enterprise. It could be anything. We do not know the cast in the next episode. Every possible theory has been running rampant. I don't know. It is a complete mystery, and this is so exciting.
Yeah, I mean, all the trailers were pointing to literally from the first 10-20 minutes of the Starbeast for the majority of it.
Yeah. And the trailers we have for the upcoming one are from the first 1 minute of it. So this...
I've decided to avoid any trailers or anything for the next episode, actually, just to keep...
You are very wise.
Well in
keep
the
off
dark.
Reddit, just in case.
Yeah, that's the fun.
Reddit rots your teeth.
Hopefully we can get out this week, but if people see it, don't message me with spoilers. I will murder someone. But yeah, we're really excited to see where it will go in the next episode.
An exciting look through this adventure and various Doctor Who type trans things. One question that we didn't touch on, male presenting Time Lord?
Oh yes, the male presenting Time Lords.
How do you feel about this line?
Sometimes I think the first time round, I think I was, as a trans person doing like What the Trans and such, you're like, oh, is something going to feel too clunky? And it sort of felt a slight bit clunky, but the second time round, it did feel a bit more natural. And when my family watched it, they didn't really notice it or have any kind of like adverse reactions. So I have to presume it probably went over people's heads and such.
Yeah, I guess male presenting and female presenting are terms that I very rarely actually hear in the real world from trans people. And the one thing it made me think of was when Tumblr started banning some of its more outre content, they specifically banned female presenting nipples. You were not allowed to have any pictures of female presenting nipples, which just seemed an absurd phrase to try and get around. Yeah, we're not going to allow the nipples of trans women, or it's bizarre. So a male presenting Time Lord, I feel like you could just say a male Time Lord, but also there is the suggestion in it that a regeneration and a face that is sort of not picked, but on some unconscious level picked, is a gender presentation. Although since David Tennant regenerated straight into his clothes, which is something that hasn't happened since 1966, maybe there was no choice to be male presenting at this point.
Yeah, some people might be like, that then the term male and female isn't a particularly good one for perpetuates a binary of sorts as well.
I guess you could go with non-binary presenting Time Lord.
That's true.
That's what I aim for. That and mysterious magical ant. That's the things I aim for.
And then the other one gripe I think I heard from some cis guys was like, oh yeah, no, it shows that cis guys are technically not superior to, aren't equal to female presenting.
That it's misandry. This is a word I saw thrown around on the forums. Don't go on the Doctor Who forums. They've been rotten since the 90s. Yes, that is inadequately making a joke about maybe being a man is not better. Stephen Moffat got in a little trouble for making jokes along those lines also, and I think it is the least worst thing he ever did. I am not troubled by this.
I suppose with the whole trans representation, it was positive. I think it was.
Yeah, I mean, it was beyond positive. This was. Yeah. I've never seen anything like this on television, and the only things that come close to this in terms of it's an actual trans character, and this is notable, is where the show is about being gay or about being trans. And this is the first time compare this to anything you've seen on, I guess, Disney's many first gay characters and the trans representation anywhere else. Yeah, I haven't seen the second season of Loki. I liked the first half of the first season, and then it excited me less and less. But this was so good. It was so trans. It was so magnificent that this is the first step of the future, I think.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I brought up Loki there because Russell T Davies specifically criticised the Loki series, saying that the representation there was piecemeal and stringing people along in a way. And now this Doctor Who's appearing on Disney Plus, it's the most queer representation that Disney have put on there.
I mean, yes. It's an incredible thing. And it's so much woven into the fabric of the story that it's not something you can just cut out and ignore.
Oh, exactly.
It is a glorious ingredient of a glorious pudding.
Oh, definitely.
This is what we like.
Oh, definitely. We've mentioned what we said about Hayley Cropper. It's going to open up a hell of a future for trans people in the media, I suppose, isn't it?
Yes. We have a loud, conspicuous ally, and it's Doctor Who. And this is a pretty good ally to have, since they were already a friend.
And I think we're looking forward to seeing what it has in the future.
I just want to see Rose come back for many more adventures. I mean, either Rose, but Rose Noble ideally.
Rose Noble specifically, yes, indeed.
Yes. Where's Rose Noble and Fudge having spin-off adventures and making toys? That's what we want.
Oh yeah, I'd love Fudge to come back as well, magnetic. But we'll have to see in the next episodes, which we'll probably have to discuss.
Yes. So we will see you next week, unless we made you sick to the neck with this episode, in which case we'll see you again only in What the Trans. The regular episodes will continue in their regular way.
Yes, that one will be coming next Monday.
Yes.
We're all going to be busy editing everything from us.
I am going to be busy editing everything. I've already got a busy weekend coming up. I'm the person who does the editing on What the Trans. The others are all journalists, but I'm the janitor. So I do all the editing. I will continue to edit pieces of audio together, because that's the thing that I do.
And you do a blooming good job at it.
Thank you. If I did a terrible job, you'd pretty much have to accept it anyway. And with that, good night and goodbye.
Yeah.
And beware and have fun.
Oh, indeed. So that was Hula Trans. You can find us on whatlatrans.com. You can find us on Threads at whatlatrans. You can find us on Facebook and this is specifically on Patreon as well. Hello, Patreon listeners.
Hello, Patreon users. I always enjoy the bit where they read out your names in the long list, because editing that together is always fun. And sometimes I go, I'm not sure you're pronouncing this right. But there are many people whose names I love to hear, and one day I may even say them.
Oh, indeed. So, and check out us on Instagram. So, see you all later. Bye.
Goodbye!
This episode was written and produced by Benjamin Swithin and Alex Bedwell, and it was edited by Ben Swithin.
Trans.